Welcome back to Mooney Makes. My name is Callie, and today we are going to be making one of my favorite weeknight dinners, and that is pasta with broccoli. So this recipe, like I said, is one of my favorite weeknight dinners. It's quick, it's easy, it's delicious, it's nutritious, and you are going to love it. And there is really nothing complicated about this recipe, but it's comforting, and it's a recipe I find myself coming back to every few weeks or so, even honestly every couple weeks. It just hits the spot, especially in the middle of the week, if you kind of need a little like pasta pick-me-up, and it is incredible, and you are going to love it. So let's get right into it, but before we begin, as always, please remember to subscribe, like, share, chat in the comment section, and follow me on social media for more recipes and additional content. So these are the ingredients that you are going to need. I have some broccoli, of course, just cut up into smaller florets, like so. I have lots of grated Parmesan cheese, freshly grated. You could also use pecorino. I have some extra virgin olive oil, pepper, salt, a bunch of minced garlic, along with a little bit of Aleppo flakes. If you don't want to use Aleppo, you can use red pepper flakes. Aleppo is slightly more mild and less spicy than red pepper flakes. It also has some very kind of subtle citrusy undertones, but either will do. I also boiled my pasta already. I'm using tortellini because that's what I have and that's what I like. And I just cooked it until al dente according to the package's instructions, and I reserved some of the starchy cooking water. Make sure you save a good amount of that, like at least I would say a cup and a half or so. You might not use all of it, but you'd rather have more than less. So like I said, my tortellini's ready to go. I just have it sitting in the colander over there. Okay, so first off, I have a pan here, and I'm gonna add my extra virgin olive oil to the pan. I'm using quite a bit, or I don't know, not too much, olive oil in this recipe. And remember, olive oil is a superfood. It's very delicious and nutritious, like I said earlier. And you know, it's a healthy fat, and I love eating kind of Mediterranean style. Most of the time I eat all sorts of food, but I use a lot of extra virgin olive oil just in general. So, you know, be generous in this recipe is what I'm trying to say. So I'm adding that to my pan. My pan is turned on to medium. I'm gonna also at this point add in my minced garlic, and we are adding the garlic into a cold pan because we really want this garlic flavor to pack a punch. And by adding the garlic to the cold oil and letting it all heat up together is going to really just infuse that oil with the garlic flavor. So if 5 cloves of garlic wasn't enough garlic to give us an intense flavor, adding it to some extra virgin olive oil and letting it infuse together, it should do the trick. And if you don't like olive oil or garlic as much as I do, which is crazy, you should love garlic, you could just cut the amount that I'm using in half, but again, it's gonna add a lot of flavor. So I'm gonna let this heat up, and then we will continue. Okay, so as you can see here, my garlic is nice and lightly golden brown. So now I'm gonna add in the broccoli, and you don't wanna overcook the garlic because then it'll get a really bitter taste. So remember, it still has a ways to go as far as cooking goes in this pan, so just be sure not to overcook it at this point. Okay, so next what I'm gonna do is just toss the garlic in this delicious, or the broccoli in this delicious oil. Ooh, that's hot. Like so. I'm gonna give this a toss, and then we'll continue. Okay, so next up, I'm gonna hit this with a good pinch of salt. I always cook with kosher salt, but any will do. You wanna salt it really well, but keep in mind, we're gonna be adding in Parmesan or pecorino, which are both very salty. We're also gonna be adding in the pasta water, which is also salted. You should be salting your pasta water quite generously. So just don't add too much now, and you could always add in more later once you taste it. So that looks good. I'm also gonna throw in, I like quite a bit of black pepper, like so. And next, I'm gonna toss in the Aleppo flakes and give this a nice toss. I love using Aleppo. Like I said, it's a little bit more mild than red pepper flakes, and I don't really like things too spicy. So this, to me, is perfect. And again, if you wanna leave it out, you can leave it out if you don't want any spice. So I'm just gonna give this a toss, and I'm gonna let this broccoli cook for a few minutes. I want it to cook down quite a bit, almost completely. I want to also see some kind of charred bits here and there on the broccoli. And you know, just give it a toss every so often so it cooks evenly on all sides. And so I'm just gonna cook this, and then once it's kind of at that stage to continue, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so we're back, and as you can see here, the broccoli has developed quite a bit of color. It's nice and charred, and it's cooked down. So next up, I'm gonna toss in some of the starchy pasta water, like so. I'm not measuring it. I would say I'm probably adding maybe like a half to 3/4 cup of the water, and I'm gonna toss the broccoli in it like so. And I'm gonna crank the heat up at this point to high heat, okay? And you know what, I'm gonna add in a little bit more water. You don't want this to be like a soup, but a lot of the water is going to absorb, and we're still gonna add more later. So like I said, you really don't need to measure it. You're not gonna go wrong with adding the water here. So I'm going to coat the broccoli in the water. I'm gonna wait for the water to come up to a boil, which will happen very quickly. And what I'm gonna do is take my spoon, and I'm going to just break apart some of the broccoli like so. And this is gonna kind of help the broccoli to not just be in chunky florets, but the little pieces to kind of disperse throughout the sauce, which is really delicious. And you know, you could leave some bigger pieces, you could leave some smaller pieces. It's entirely up to you. I like a kind of combination of the two, but I do like, you know, a good bit of broccoli with every bite. So I think that breaking it up kind of helps to, again, kind of get that flavor throughout the pasta and not just rely on larger chunks of the broccoli to do the trick. So I'm gonna just keep breaking this up, and if you feel like you need to add more water, if you don't have enough, add some more water. So, which I'm actually gonna do right now. So I'm gonna continue doing this, and then we'll continue. Okay, so I broke up the broccoli to just my preference. So I still have some chunky bits, and I still have, you know, quite a bit of smaller pieces also running through this. So now what I'm gonna do is add in my tortellini. And again, you don't have to use tortellini. You can use any pasta of your choice. I typically use like a rigatoni or something like that. And I'm also going to toss in some more of the pasta water, because this is going to help the sauce adhere to the pasta. It's also going to kind of make this a little bit more saucy, because we don't have like a tomato sauce in here. So you're working with a few ingredients, but they all serve a purpose, and it's all going to work out. So next, I'm going to throw in my Parmesan cheese, and I mean, you don't have to, but I always prefer to use grated, or freshly grated, like from a block, because it really just melts quite better than, you know, buying like the pre-packaged kind of Parmesan, which does have a product on it, which makes it harder to melt. So it might be a little bit more clumpy, but either will do. I've used both, and it's always delicious. So I'm gonna toss this in, and my burner is still on high, and I'm gonna cook this all together for about a minute or so. And in that time, the pasta is really going to continue cooking, because like I said earlier, you want to cook it to al dente, or actually a little bit shy of al dente, because we want to finish cooking it in the sauce. So it's going to, again, absorb that flavor, and we want it to absorb a little bit more of the liquid in here. And the Parmesan really kind of acts as like a glue. It really clings to the sauce, and it kind of helps, you know, make it saucy, and it's going to absorb some of that water, and it's just going to get perfect. So I'm just going to stir this up. Okay, so at this point, give it a taste and see if it needs a little bit more salt, pepper, Aleppo, Parmesan cheese, whatever you'd like. And this is optional. You could add in about a tablespoon of butter and let that melt, and that'll make it a little bit more rich, which is of course delicious. And this to me is just the epitome of an easy, quick, delicious weeknight dinner that everyone is gonna love. So as always, for the full written recipe and instructions, head to my blog, mooneymakesrecipes.com. I'll put the link for that in the description box below. Click on the link, the recipe will come right up, and make this broccoli pasta. I promise you're gonna love it, and let me know what you think, because I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.